As veterans, we struggle to fit in, taught to never let feelings win. Lost in a world full of fear and pain, we all have hung our heads in shame. When we look up, we see hands reaching out. There is so much support about it. Comes from above and others around. Please take a hand and rise from the ground. Stand up and fight for your life. Walk away from negativity. Don't give in to strife. Show up for yourself. Find your voice. Keep moving forward. You have a choice. Give compassion for the child inside. Healing pain, let hope reside. Lost you will no longer be. Then you can help set others free. Now speak up and with us share the tools that make pain easy to bear. Advocate for others to lighten their load. Use your voice and join our show. On Coffee Talk with Bryan and Marie, we heal out loud, PTSD to advocacy.
All right. What's going on, friends and family? Thank you guys so much for joining us. Another Coffee Talk with Bryan and Marie. How are we doing today, Marie?
I am good, and I just realized that my name tape is wrong, and I'm gonna have to edit it because Kale was
Oh, you
on
still got the
here.
Kale Smith in there from the last show.
Yes, I am so sorry, but yeah, we had
Oh,
Kale
you're all
a couple
good.
days ago. Let me do that now. I thought I changed it, but we loved Kale, and it was really, really good. But we've gotten awesome guests today, so not Kale.
Absolutely. So how's
But
things going?
hi.
You doing all right?
I am getting more and more nervous because I've got my
Oh, yeah.
hysterectomy, my hysterectomy on Thursday, and so there's a lot of emotions that are coming up with it still. I had a really good conversation with this gentleman yesterday at the grocery store who is in a wheelchair. He got muscular dystrophy. He got it when he was like 12, but he just started recently using a wheelchair, and we got to talking just about what it is like to lose function in your body and how you have to overcome that shame to use the different aids and stuff like that, and find peace with the journey. And it's kind of where I'm at is, with the different surgeries that I've had, with the braces that I have to wear, and now with this hysterectomy, there's a lot of unknowns, and a lot. I read the poem a few weeks ago about the morning after mourning. I have to allow myself to mourn what my life was like and what it could have been, and find peace with what is now. And so I'm actively in that journey of working to find peace of what my life is now. And but yeah, I get nervous, and I'm excited to see what God's going to do with the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you know, I'll be praying for you. And I know, I hate surgeries. I hate going to the doctor in general. So I get how that anxiety starts building up, I'm sure, as it gets closer.
Yeah. How are you
But
doing?
I'm doing all right. I mean, still, like I said, we're kind of still settled in, but we're mostly, I would say, settled in. I mean, there's probably a little bit more to do. We did move into a smaller house, so we have a lot of stuff that's like, oh God, we have to get rid of so much extra stuff. So that's been kind of the challenge right now is just, getting rid of things that are unnecessary, and it just makes you realize like how much crap you really accumulate throughout time, and you don't even realize it until you move. And when you move, you're like, gosh, we have too much crap, and that's where we're at now. And now I'm like purging, just like purging Facebook Marketplace, selling whatever I can, just getting rid of things, donating. But yeah, it's been a
If
fun venture, but I'm just happy and blessed to be, where I'm at.
if you can't sell it, Facebook has a group called Buy Nothing. So people will come to your house and pick up stuff. You just post pictures and people will come pick it up. You can just leave it on your lawn and just be like, "Hey, come get this stuff." And people like free stuff, so they'll come get it from you.
And that's a true fact. One man's trash is another man's gold is a saying that I've always heard. So I do know that there's a lot of people out there that I mean, I've seen some stuff while I was driving on a freeway, like kind of on the side, like, ooh, that's a nice bucket. I could, or
Yeah.
something,
The most
uh,
random things you see, and you're like, "I could use that. That looks awesome."
you're
Yeah,
like,
I
damn,
get it.
that's intact, like,
It still has its handle.
right? Like, I don't see any holes or dents in it. Good, man. Like, yeah, that's great.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
well, we're gonna go ahead and do what we normally do. This time, we're gonna give another veteran owned business a little bit of some love. So if you got yourself a beard going, even a mustache or anything like that, Dr. Goodbeard is a Marine veteran, has a great product for beard and stuff like that. So let's give Doc Goodbeard some love. And when we come back, we'll have Marie do one of her amazing poems, and then she's going to introduce our next guest, and then we'll get this show on the road. All right, here we go. American made, veteran owned, we are Doc Goodbeard. It's more than just looking good. When it comes to your beard, we believe you can have it all. Thoughtfully designed, unique fragrances, and affordable prices. We strive to provide a line of uniquely scented balms and oils that you won't find in other products. Come on, rock with Doc, and remember, it's all about the beard, man. So what do you say? Let's take that average beard and make it badass. Go to docbeard.com.
Hey guys, that was fun. I liked that. That was cute. It's all about the beard. All right, so today I am going to be reading a poem that I just wrote a couple days ago. Sometimes when I am in my head, I don't sleep very well, and when I don't sleep, I tend to like do the doom scrolling, and then I'm like, no, I can't do this, and I kind of stop and kind of ponder, what's actually going in my head because I realized that I'm feeling insecure about something. And so some of my best poems come in the middle of the night at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when I should be sleeping. So this is one of those poems. I realized, not realized, but I've been thinking a lot lately about how I struggle with still seeking validation from other people. You guys know that I've been through a lot of traumas, in my childhood and in my adulthood, and I tend to still seek validation. And that's one of the reasons why I ended up in the psych unit in December because I was having a hard time when I wasn't getting the validation that I needed and I was or that I wanted, and I was dissociating and going into like teenage mentality, and it wasn't really healthy because my PTSD was hitting really hard. And so I came up with this poem about that idea of seeking validation. Stuck in a cage of my own creation, isolated, seeking validation, years never facing insecurity, codependent, emotional immaturity, past trauma, wounds cut deep, hurt, abandoned, seeking permanent sleep, wanting to feel seen or heard, lost voice, no escaping word. Have to be what I think is desired. Chameleon. I'm so tired. Rebellious. I start to shout. Peacock. I must stand out. That feels isolating too. Masking. Addictions hide what's true. Breaking the facade, revealing instincts are flawed. Fears come to light, healing renewed eyesight, learning people will fail me, acceptance. This is reality, letting go of resentment. Christ, this is why he was sent. God gives me validation, metamorphosis, adaptation, turning weakness into strength, not condemning, love at any length. Individual identity replaces fitting into others' spaces. True connection to others found. Interdependence no longer bound. I am not stuck in a cage. Freedom, true me, finally takes center stage.
Outstanding. Thank you for another amazing poem. And we won't make our guests wait any longer. I'm excited to have him on and hear his experiences and everything. So go ahead and give that amazing intro.
Okay, so today we have a gentleman named Brian. I think it's Pultro, and please forgive me if I say it wrong. So Brian Pultro. I reached out to him through a program app.
Podcastguest.com.
Yeah, website. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. So the website podcastguest.com, and I saw his intro and he said that he was military and I was like, "Oh, this will be so fun." Okay, so his intro, Brian graduated from Auburn University on May 11th, 2006 with a degree in political science and was commissioned as an ensign into the United States Navy on the same day. I'm going to let him kind of talk about his military service a little bit. But he also served on the faculty of Villanova University as an instructor of naval science, where he earned a nomination as Naval Service Training Command's Instructor of the Year. While at Villanova, he was honored with the Junior Facility Award for Excellence in Teaching for 2013. This award is presented to a faculty member who has been in full-time position for less than 7 years and has developed extraordinary effective teaching approaches. To date, he is the only non-PhD to win the award. He also earned his Master of Arts in Political Science from Villanova in 2012. In 2015, Brian left active duty and joined the Navy Reserve. He partnered with his uncle at Pultro Financial Management as a financial planner and obtained advanced certification as an accredited investment fiduciary, behavioral financial advisor, and registered financial consultant. Brian also earned the coveted Ethics Certified designation from the International Association of Registered Financial Consultants. That was a lot of big words. So I hope I didn't mess anything up.
And that's why we let you do it. Because you know what? I would have slaughtered the hell out of that. So yeah, that's why we let you do that, Marie.
Yeah. Thank you. The Navy called Brian back to active duty in June of 2018, where he served as a strategic planner in the Iran branch at the United States Central Command headquarters in Tampa, Florida for a year. Brian currently holds the rank of commander and is a staff officer at Carrier Strike Group 4 in Virginia. In his free time, Brian spends as much time as possible with his wife, 3 sons, and 2 golden retriever rescues, which we might hear during this. So just letting you guys know. He is a board member of the Auburn University Alumni Association, the Villanova University Alumni Association, and serves as the LPL Financial Government Relations Advisory Council. Brian, you gave me tongue twisters today, but we are so excited to have you here. So come on.
Thank you both so much, Marie and Brian. Pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Man, we're excited to have you on, and absolutely excited to hear all about the great things that you got going on and what you've done, and you know, kind of where you come from. So, you know, give us the spill, man. Let us get to know Brian, and let you know, our listeners know about you and what you did for our country and how getting out was and what you got going on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So my journey into the military started my senior year of high school. 9/11 happened my senior year of high school, and it was that night when I filled out an ROTC application.
Wow.
I had already had a few colleges in mind that I wanted to go to, but obviously the transition switched to ROTC centric at that point. And my father had gone to a really, 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 really small school down in Alabama, a town called Cullman, Alabama. And he said, hey, I really loved the state of Alabama when I was down there. So why don't we look for ROTC programs there? And found Auburn University, applied, got in, said yes, sight unseen. And that was the beginning of my journey. And there for 4 years, and then got commissioned. And 3 weeks later, I was on my first ship, USS Gettysburg, out of Mayport, Florida. When I arrived at her, we left for the Persian Gulf about 1 year later. We're there for about 7 months on that deployment. Super eye-opening. Yeah, just, 20.
How was it eye-opening?
Man, where do I
Ship
start?
life. Ship
I'm sorry.
life.
It was eye-opening in the sense that I was too immature to know what I was getting myself into at that point. This is 2007, so I think about that time. If it hadn't started already, the surge was about to start back into Fallujah. And we were out there. Yeah, I think it was happening then, because we spent 72 straight days at sea. On a Navy ship, you typically pull into port every 2 to 4 weeks or whatever. And every single time we would try to pull into port, whether it was Bahrain, Dubai, somewhere else, we'd be on our way in, and then halfway through the sea and anchor detail, told to turn around and head back out. And that went on for quite a while. And, there's been plenty of sailors that have spent way longer than 72 straight days at sea. But for some reason, like day 68, I hit my wall at my breaking point, and I was just had to go into the stateroom, had a good cry. It was like I was like, I need to touch land. Like this isn't an episode of Below Deck sailing yacht, right? I need to get off the ship, kind of thing.
It's loud as hell on those ships. It is uncomfortable. You got to duck every time you go through a freaking. I mean, it's hot as shit, humid. I mean, bro, yeah, you talking about ugly living conditions. You're damn right. It is not a yacht experience, whatever. So to any degree, I was on one for only like 2 weeks, bro, and I was like, I'm ready to dive off this motherfucker. You know what I mean? Because, just, dude, I don't know how many times I bonked my head going through a freaking thing or something. I mean, just, yeah, that life is rough. I get that.
I've never been on a ship, but, my dad has told me, because he was Navy, he kind of told me a little bit before, but then just watching TV, but that doesn't give it justice, I guess. But
no, sleeping in coffins.
Sounds miserable.
In the Marine, where they have the Marines sleeping, we were like literally like coffins, and like I was like almost nose touching the freaking rack above me. There's like a 2 or 3 rack stack, and then the guy at the top's got to like step on someone's finger, or and don't you dare come down at night, fool. Like go take, make sure you make your head call before you go to bed.
Yeah. I will say, and I think you can attest to this, Brian. Even though you're only on the ship for 2 weeks, it was probably the best 2 weeks of sleep you ever had in your life.
Yes, because especially from a Marine standpoint, there's not a lot for us to do. The only thing they would do is make us go out and do PT, and then they'd be like, go down and start doing stuff with the vehicles. And yeah, right, dude, everybody be freaking messing around. And I remember one of my buddies, he was straight up so sick, he was bedridden the whole time we were on the ship. Like, look, he just couldn't get up. He could not develop those sea legs. Yeah. Oh, and I'll tell you what, man. Within okay, so as soon as we got out to sea and you couldn't see nothing anymore, all of a sudden, dude, they had everybody go down to the bottom of the ship. They had all of us in formation. And while we're staying in formation, you just see guys starting to drop out, and they're puking their life out. And then it started messing with me. I was like, Oh gosh, I was like, I'm feeling sick too. So, bro, we kept going to see the doc every like so often. Go get Dramamine. I was like, dude, I need more Dramamine, bro. Like, like I don't want to be sick, man. And then getting back on land after all that too, your legs are kind of like it's kind of like weird at first when you're
Yeah,
landing on land again, man.
it absolutely is a thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I heard that's why Captain Jack walks so weird because he's so used to sitting on a on a ship.
uh,
Jack Sparrow. So,
besides him being drunk all the time, I don't know.
that's true. Yeah.
yeah. There's nothing like sleeping at sea though. It's the best sleep you ever get, just with the rocking on the ship. It's just like a cradle. It's so good.
Yeah, as long as everybody's strapped all the seats in and the tables in, and that would be sometimes the problem because if no one did, you'd hear the chairs going, hitting the wall,
Yeah,
hitting the other wall, and then be like, someone get up and strap it in, you know?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So after that deployment, I came back and I was sent to a minesweeper that was originally stationed in Ingleside, Texas.
Mm.
No offense to anybody in Texas, but probably one of the worst places I've ever been, Ingleside, Texas. The only two things that are there are tumbleweeds and javelinas, the pigs that chase you around the base while you're doing PT. You know, in the infinite wisdom of the Pentagon and Congress, when LCS or Littoral Combat Ship came online in the early 2000s, and they had this brilliant idea that you could change the ship's mission by simply dropping on the equivalent of like an 18-wheeler cargo holder, and inside of it would be various computers for different warfare areas it was going to go do. So it could go do strike, it could go do air defense, it could go do submarine hunting, it could go do minesweeping. Well, when they realized this idea was just fantasy land and never going to happen, all of the minesweeps that they had decided they were going to decommission and turn into mothballs, they said, "Wow, we gotta get these things going again because we have no ability to hunt mines or do anything." So I got sent to a ship that, when I arrived, was still in mothballs, and we moved it from Ingleside, Texas, to Sasebo, Japan. I lived there for a year. Came back and, as you alluded to, Marie, there was way too many words in that. I got to truncate it. Went to Villanova University, taught ROTC there, and then I went on to be a department head on USS Arleigh Burke, a destroyer out of Norfolk, and deployed to the Persian Gulf again for 9 months in 2014. And it was there, actually got to do what all surface warfare officers dream of doing, which isn't just go to sea, do under replenishment, sail around, protect the carrier. We actually got to fire missiles into Syria, 30 offensive Tomahawks into Syria, which was one of the greatest experiences ever. Came back, and then I decided it was time to transition to the reserves, and I did that in December 2015, and became
It's
a
something else hearing the the Navy weapons fire, right? I mean, I even when we were out there, they did some test firing out there, and I was just amazed on the weaponry on the Navy ships.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Marie.
I was gonna say, can I ask? So you said you were shooting over to Syria. Can I ask what is the mentality with that? Because we haven't really talked to anybody who was on a ship shooting things, and I'm curious about how your mentality was with all of that, or all of you guys, how you handled
This is
that
what they train for,
emotionally.
Marie.
I know, but how did it affect your mental state?
It might take me a while to answer this question because this is
That's
something
okay.
I've actually thought about and no one's ever asked me. So this will be the first time I'm actually talking about this.
No, and it's great.
Awesome.
No,
Yeah.
we need this. Yep.
Yeah.
We don't get this part.
So when we were leaving the Persian Gulf and we were heading back home, and then halfway through the Suez, we got told to turn around and come back down into the Red Sea. So we kind of knew something was up and this was going to happen. And all the department heads on the ship, we have conversations with the captain about, hey, if this happens, what do we want the crew reaction to be? Obviously, listen, we're turning the key and we're shooting missiles into Syria. We are going to take people's lives. There could be collateral damage. And I think it's a little different when you're in the Navy, being so far downrange from it, right? It's not up close and personal. And I thought about that a lot. And the thing I specifically told the captain is, if and when we do this, we need to act like we've been here before. We're not going to turn the key, and we're not going to hear 30 missiles leave the ship and suddenly start spiking the football and cheering like we just won the Super Bowl. I don't know that that would have been professional. And we had a lot of debate about it amongst the officers in the wardroom and the captain. And ultimately, I guess thankfully, we didn't fire those missiles till 2:14 a.m. local time. So the vast majority of the crew was asleep. And it was only the folks that were in combat that were awake and aware of what happened. And I think everybody handled themselves well during that time. There wasn't, wasn't people running around through the P-way screaming and hollering and cheering. It was, we did this thing. We should be super proud that all 30 left the ship and executed exactly what they were supposed to do. We trained hard for it. The systems and equipment worked really well. We should be immensely proud. I'm immensely proud of that, but there wasn't, it was a humble pride. And I think that's what we needed to do. And the intent was met in that specific situation.
Now,
oh, go ahead, Brian.
Now, did you guys feel after that, did you guys have something in terms of feeling like maybe you guys are more of a target now? Did you feel like after you shot that, like, oh shit, like what if there is some kind of retaliation on our ship's Pacific? Or did you guys feel pretty well like, all right, mission accomplished, now we're going back?
I would say we definitely felt that way. I forget how much longer we loitered in the Red Sea before we headed north back through the Suez, but definitely from the time we shot till the time we got through the Suez Canal, made the hard left turn back towards the United States. After getting halfway through the Med, probably those feelings dissipated. But yeah, certainly in the ensuing days after that, as we're transiting north through the Red Sea and through the Suez, who knows, some guy with an RPG just standing on the side of the canal, and you have no idea what he's going to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was definitely some of that. Yeah, absolutely.
So what was the I know that I have talked to other people who have had to take lives. I thankfully never had to. I was on the other side. I was the cleanup crew as a medic and taking care of our guys once they've been hurt. But was there any, I know that okay, how do I word this? I know that there was that physical distance, which sometimes creates emotional distance, right? And I know that you guys this was a mission, getting this mission done, you guys trained for it. You're proud that the mission went well, the way that it needed to. But did you ever experience any of that aftershock? And how did you deal with that, or any of your soldier or any of your other
Sailors.
sailors? How did everybody handle the follow up? Oh shit, we just killed people.
Yeah,
Was there any backlash in the emotional state with regards to that for you or for others?
Yeah, so how was the overall morale, like in terms of the ship too? Because I know you guys got extended a little bit out there, right? I mean, I still have a Marine buddy that's a gunnery sergeant. He just keeps getting extended, and I know, like, after some time, like, dude, I know he's a staff NCO, but I'm like, hey, how are you and your troops' morale, man? I mean, because the extending part really plays on you, especially being on a ship.
Yeah.
Like you said, you guys were out there for 70 days straight, no land. I mean, you even yourself, right? I started losing it. So, I mean, what was the overall morale?
I'll just speak for me personally, and then maybe I can, touch on what I saw from other sailors. But I've been extraordinarily blessed on the 3 ships I've been on. to actually do the mission on all 3 ships. So like my first ship, which was a cruiser out of Mayport, Florida, the good ship Gettysburg, I was on the VBSS team. VBSS stands for Visit, Board, Search, and Seizure. So when we were in the Persian Gulf, you know, if we had some intel that this dhow might have, you know, IEDs on it or something like that, or smuggling something they shouldn't be, we would get on our little small boat, go over there and board the ship. And that was one of our primary missions out there. And since I was on the VBSS team, I was able to do that for the entirety of that deployment. It was incredibly rewarding and felt like I was doing the mission. And then when I got sent to be on a mine sweep, you know, when, like I said, when I got there, it was in mothballs, but we built her back up, took her to Japan, and then we actually got to do real life inter-Navy mine sweeping missions with the South Korean Navy and the Japanese Navy. And we're physically putting this equipment in the water and hunting for mines, and it was super cool. And then, God bless you, one of my golden retrievers just took a huge sneeze. Hopefully you guys can hear it.
No, very good.
And then on the last ship I was on, the Arleigh Burke, the destroyer, you know, we went out there to mostly do ballistic missile and air defense, but then on the way back to stop and get told you're going to do this thing that is like a mythical unicorn in the Navy world, where, you know, our job is to shoot down incoming missiles. No one ever fires missiles. It's not a thing. And to do that was just so cool and rewarding. So, you know, the mental state for me was just one of gratefulness to be able to train for a job and actually do it, because the vast majority of people do not get to do the thing they've trained months and months and years for. As far as some of the other crew members, I think I recall that there were definitely some folks who were hesitant about what they were doing. I remember they flew on a destroyer. Because it's a smaller ship, you typically don't have a chaplain that lives aboard with you. But in the lead up to this, the carrier sent us a chaplain, and we had a chaplain on board. And you know, there were some folks who were definitely concerned about it and the impact of it. But my personal experience, like I said, was a little different in terms of just finally being able to do something I trained for so long.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good. And I guess that shows good training to, like, and training with regards to resiliency. You know, it's like, okay, we're doing this thing, you know, we don't need to let it define us. We don't need to let it, you know, hurt us, you know. So I guess that kind of shows that you were adequately prepared, you know.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we can do that. Bryan, can you pause us?
Yep. All right, everybody, this is a perfect opportunity for our veteran showcase. I'm excited for this next one. I got to meet this guy personally at a Hero Stock, and he's just a great dude, Army veteran. And we're going to go ahead and play his song. This song is called Happy. And let's get this going, and we'll get ourselves removed.
I'm laying on the floor, staring at the ceiling. I've been here for hours. I'm empty, got no feeling. I'm laying on the floor, just staring at the ceiling. I've been here for hours, fighting back my demons. I can't explain it. I'm not sad, but I start to cry. I don't understand it. I don't feel like myself inside. I'm dead on the floor, staring at a ceiling. I'm empty, got no feeling. I'm dead on the floor, staring at a ceiling. I've been here before, fighting back my demons. They'll say he always looks so happy. You never would have known. They'll say he always looks so happy. He never let it show. Never let it show. Always so happy. Never let it show. Drugs ain't helping. They're just killing me faster now. These drugs ain't helping. They're just letting more demons out. They'll say he always looks so happy.
All right. That was Schaefer Mueller, once again, an Army veteran. Love what you're doing out there, brother. Keep doing what you're doing, man. And love supporting you. And got you on my playlist. So I actually, the other day, one of your songs came through and shared it on Facebook. So it is free 99, guys, to go follow these guys on their social media platforms. He's on YouTube, Spotify, all that stuff. Look up Schaefer Mueller music and gosh, just go download his stuff. Like I said, it's free 99. A lot of these places to go check it out and just show them some love. But
Bryan, you should send him an invite to come be on the show.
Absolutely. I've had him on the show for every day of Saturday, but I'll bring him on here. He's an awesome dude. So his wife actually I think she's still active duty. So he's a dependent now. You know, he's a little dependa.
Awesome.
But all right, Bryan. So yeah, we had to take a quick little break. You know, some of us love our coffee, and you know, so we just need our little time. So Bryan, let's go ahead and get back at it, man.
Yeah, I think I just left off with talking about how, you know, the crew and the ship reacted to firing those missiles into Syria, and how proud I was of the way they conducted themselves, and obviously being able to accomplish the mission and do that after, you know, like I said, training for years and years, and most folks never get to do that. So it was, you know, it was certainly one of the highlights of my career there. Yeah.
So were you married at this time when you were doing all this?
I'm sorry, was I what?
Were you married at this time?
Yes, I was. I got married in 2011. Yeah.
Okay, so how
How'd I
did
do,
the
Wes?
time spent at sea away from your family affect you as you were doing all of this?
So and you both know this, the military is extraordinarily adept and skilled at training your brain at this good and bad habit called compartmentalization. And in many circumstances, I think it's a really good thing that we're able to do that. Well, first of all, we have to do it for survival. It's a requirement. Like, we need to be able to absorb events and tuck them away and deal with them later to finish the mission and move on. But I think after you let down your pack and it's time to move on, that can really be a curse, because folks attempt to compartmentalize things in their personal life, and there's a place for that, but I think a lot of times it can turn out to be venomous.
We turn a little bit into machines in that sense, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's really hard to take something that was really embedded in you and training wise, and then when you get out, to just turn it off and just, you know, take it off and just say, all right, next. And especially the people that are exposed to it longer.
I completely agree, and I think that leads to a lot of folks not being able to open up about what's going on inside, not being able to talk about how they're feeling because their training tells them that they shouldn't have to deal with that. They should just tuck it away somewhere and either deal with it alone or deal with it at another time. So when I transitioned off of active duty, I started to get this dread about essentially sand through the hourglass. And so like in the Navy, like I could log on to this Navy specific website right now and it'll tell me how much actual physical time I've spent out at sea. It counts it for you. And mine's over like 4 years or something like that. You know,
Wow.
Wow.
I've
Like in total?
in total from like, and this includes deployments, but it's like all the times you go out for 2 weeks just to do training off the coast of Virginia, that kind of stuff too.
Did you do any Westpacks or anything like that while you were in? Or
I was an East Coast sailor for the cruiser and destroyer, but then the minesweep was in Japan, and so minesweeps are made of Christmas trees. They're actually made of Douglas fir.
oh, no
So
shit.
they don't go too far because they bob like a cork in the water, and they're really, really, really small. So we don't have enough stores to go really far. And if you think of the mission of a minesweep, you know, folks don't lay mines in the middle of the ocean. They lay them in littoral waters close to land. So the ship is designed to kind of stay near the coast for the most part. Yeah, so no Westpac for me.
Thank you for explaining that because I'm sitting here thinking minesweeper, like you're on a boat. Like I was for some reason I was like, okay, so maybe he was on land for a little while. Like this is where my brain goes. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, a minesweeper, but that makes sense that they put mines in the water. So thank you because
Yeah, you're welcome.
my brain was not going
And then
there.
because this part was probably confusing, I'll expand on the Christmas tree thing. So the ship is made of Christmas trees because if you sail a steel ship over a magnetically induced mine, it senses the change in the magnetic signature of the water, and then it says this is a ship over top, blow up, and then it blows up. So you can drive a wooden minesweep into a minefield because mines are not programmed to detonate when they sense wood. They detonate when they sense steel.
It's almost like
Oh,
an
that's
old
awesome.
pirate ship, man. Like, damn,
Yeah.
this thing's like, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, you're a flipping pirate. That is awesome.
Well, so there's I don't know if either of you have ever seen this famous motion picture called McHale's Navy. If you haven't, that's okay. But essentially, as I was alluding to, when I went to the minesweep in 2008, Congress had shut these things down years earlier, so we were bringing them back up. Ingleside, Texas was like McHale's Navy. It was wild. Like Navy regulations didn't apply down there. Like there were dudes who would just work in like their trousers and no shirt all the time. There was guys with beards. I remember one chief petty officer who was on my ship every single morning. Come on the ship. Hey, good morning, chief. How you doing? He always raise his cup and say, "I'm doing great, sir." And I knew that inside of there, not only was it coffee, but there was little Baileys.
Yeah, matey, I'm good to go.
Right. So like it was, and because the ships were made of wood, I don't know. I just feel like people cared about us less because they like you only care.
They're on that wood boat,
Yeah.
you know, like
Your ship doesn't count.
But see, here's the thing. No one cares about a minesweep until a ship gets hit by a mine.
right, yeah.
So it's funny. I obviously have a lot of guys who I'm still close with in the military. We were texting about what's recently happening. And one of my buddies asked me, would you rather be on USS Defender, which is the minesweep, minesweeping the Strait of Hormuz if we need to do it, or USS Gettysburg, the cruiser, doing air defense? And I said to him in a split second, I said, USS Defender hunting mines, even though it's a wood ship with zero defense. And he said, why? I said, because if they laid mines in the water and we needed to go over there to sweep them, literally that 175-foot piece of floating wood would be the most important asset on planet Earth at that moment. And we'd be protected by 15 destroyers, 2 aircraft carriers, multiple. I'm not worried about getting hit by anything because without us, this thing's closed forever.
I feel like the likelihood of mines are a lot more than air, when it comes to that situation.
Oh yeah, I mean, just because it costs like 82 cents to make a mine and drop it in the water.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that's what I feel like that's how they're operating right now,
Yeah.
because they're trying to hold everybody hostage for
Yeah.
oil. Yeah.
So yeah.
This is a random question, but when you were on your other ships, did you ever run into any mines? Like, I'm
No.
just curious. Do you know? Okay, I was just curious if you know by experience of, oh man, we're mad at them.
Yeah.
Or-
So the last time, I'm fairly certain, based on my history, the last time a ship was hit by a mine was in 1985 in the Persian Gulf during the
Wow.
Iran-Iraq War. It was USS Princeton, which was a cruiser. She was hit by a mine, and the starboard side of her bow was blown open, and she got towed back to the United States to be repaired. But I think that was the last time it happened.
You see all that fake news saying they like sunk I think they said USS Nimitz, or I forgot what the hell it was. I was like, that is wild that
Yeah.
they're trying to put out news that we took a huge ship loss. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I have another random question.
Mhm.
So my dad was Navy, and he was a code breaker back in the 60s.
Okay.
And he told me that there was at one point he was like off the coast of either Turkey or Egypt, or I think off of Turkey. But he made the comment that at one point his ship was right next to a German ship, and they were breaking each other's codes as they're like, they're anyways. Did you have the experience of you were like right next to an enemy ship? Did that ever happen for you?
Um,
I was just curious.
yeah, like uh, definitely in the Persian Gulf, the Iranians will send ships out all the time to see how you're going to react and
They like to play
determine
cat and
whether or
mouse,
not they're
huh?
willing to take the steps to deter them. I would say the Navy as a whole is better at not waiting to get shot at first before, doing some kind of deterrence. Um, on my last deployment back in 2014, we were sailing in the Persian Gulf, and we got a distress call near an island called Farsi Island, which is in the Persian Gulf. There was a group of fishermen that were out there doing pearl diving, and one of the pearl divers had not come back up from the most recent dive. So they had a distress call, and because it was in international waters, we went to help because as sailors, you've got to help anybody in distress. So we sail over to them, and at the same time, an Iranian Coast Guard ship comes out. And this just blew my mind at the time. Now, this is 12 years ago. And us and the Iranian Coast Guard ship are working together to try to see if we can find this pearl diver who didn't come back up. Now, ultimately, we couldn't find him, but this is the part that it's one of those things that's etched in my memory and lets me believe in humanity as a whole. Coast Guard ship ran out of fuel while they were out there. They couldn't get back, and they were like 30 miles from the coast. So they actually asked if they could come alongside of the destroyer and hook up next to us and us give them fuel. And you're thinking an Iranian ship and an American ship tied up side by side in the Persian Gulf, where we can get on and get off as we please. And they did. They came up alongside of us, and we gave them fuel from our aft deck. And our medic went on board and took a look at them. We gave them some food and all this kind of stuff. But like, we're out there working together, and then the ships are tied up side by side, and we're giving them fuel, and like everybody's shaking hands and is friendly. Like, this is surreal stuff because you're taught that this is the enemy, but maybe like at the basic humanity level, they're not. They're just trying to provide for their family and believe in their God and protect their country and do their thing like we're doing too. It was really, really illuminating and eye-opening to have that experience.
So Bryan, that's kind of like the boots on the ground experience, right? Like, so you're getting to see that firsthand because you're intertwined. that's a lot of what we got to do in the Marine Corps. Before I ever deployed, bro, I just mainly saw Marines, right? And it was just me working a lot with the Marines and stuff to that nature, doing, exercise. I did get on a Navy ship, did a little interaction there. But when we actually deployed, man, we not only was it us, it was the Brits, the Australians, it was a whole bunch of us coming together and really having to just break bread with each other and everything. And, so man, you find out at the human level that it's like, the people that are all wearing this, we're just the ones being pointed, and here's your mission, here's what you're directed to do, because that's what your country wants you to do. But I mean, when we're all going into it, man, those humans are no different than us. They're living their life. They got families. They want to live. They want to go home to their families. You know what I mean? So it's good that you got to experience that, bro. And that was kind of a good interaction for you guys. And then that really probably level set you for a second, saying, wait a second, man, maybe. And I'm sure that resonates with you probably more now than it probably did back then. But you know what I mean? Where you're like, man, maybe some of the things that we were led to believe is more of a narrative than reality. You know what I mean?
So, a couple things. First thing, just something that came to mind. Have you guys ever seen War Horse?
I haven't seen it.
It's a really good movie. It's not based on a true story, but it kind of culminates on people's love for their horses back in the olden day wars, and the horses got taken and recruited to come be in the military, right? From like little small towns and stuff. But anyways, there's a scene in there where one of the horses gets caught in some barbed wire in between the two front lines. And it just shows this humanity of somebody from each side coming over to rescue this horse together. And then they decide to flip a coin to see who gets to keep the horse. And it's just so human, because like the German dude, he flips the coin and it shows heads, and he had called tails. And he's like, well, that's the face of my Fuhrer, who is pissed off at me because you get the horse.
I think that was a very symbolic part of the movie, though, right at the end of the day.
Yes. And so it's just kind of funny. I just like that. But just that idea of being able to work with the enemy for common humanity, and then I was also thinking about, there's a story of one of the older wars where it was Christmas Day and they called a ceasefire so that World War I. And so they could each celebrate Christmas, and again, common humanity, I wanted to ask as well, just kind of like timeline, because my brain kind of goes like 50 billion different ways. So you were just talking about this situation being in 2014, and I was looking at your bio, and you were teaching at the school, and this was one of the deployments while you were teaching. Like, was it one and then the other?
Yeah, I taught ROTC until June of 2013, and then when I was sent to my next ship after that.
So when you got back from that deployment, is that where you transitioned into the reserves then?
In December of 2015, yes. So I was on the ship for about another year after we got back from that deployment, and then transitioned after that.
Okay, so what was your kind of transition like? And I know you kind of touched base on the family aspect, but as you are doing these deployments and teaching and doing all of this kind of stuff, what was that transition like, going into the reserves? Because I know you got activated a little bit later, but there's that transition period where it's like you have to reintegrate back into the civilian life, you reintegrate into family life. What was kind of that transition when you went from that active duty into the reserves?
It was different for me than most, only because I was very blessed to kind of have a career lined up before I had to transition. So I'm a financial planner now, but my uncle has been doing financial planning since 1987. And about 8 months before I got out, I asked him if I could kind of, we'll just say, join the family business and become his apprentice or whatever. And after saying no multiple times, he reluctantly agreed. And so when I transitioned, I went right into studying for my licensing exams, and then started, practicing financial planning with him. And we've been doing it now for 11 years. So my transition was different than most, meaning because I wasn't going out on job interviews. I wasn't trying to translate my MOS into civilian speak. So, and that's something I think about now a lot. So in the area, especially at Villanova University has a veterans center where a lot of the veterans who are using the GI Bill, that's where they gather and congregate. And I have a great relationship with them, and I go down there and I do some, financial planning stuff with those guys, because some of them have never been taught. But the other thing we do talk about is, hey, this is me. I was a surface warfare officer. I drove ships for a living, shot missiles. How does that translate in the civilian world? Like, how can I get these hard skills I learned on a ship translated to this one piece of paper to have an employer actually have interest in me? And I am so blessed to never have had to do that, but I try to help pay it forward by helping folks figure that out. And God, thankfully for me in the greater Philadelphia area, there's so many great programs for transitioning veterans. There's a company called Greencastle that's local. They help transitioning veterans. The Union League of Philadelphia actually has a transitioning veterans workshop. It's like a cohort that pairs you with another member in the greater Philadelphia area that they pair you with someone that you want to get into their field of work. I actually went through the inaugural program of that, and I was paired with a financial planner. It's a 1-year program. You meet with
what's the program called?
Very specifically, I don't remember the name, but it's at the Union League of Philadelphia, and it's not the Veterans Transition Program, but if you just go to the Union League website and search for veterans, it'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's such a and that was like that program, and that was in its infancy back in 2015. I mean, it's got to be a million times better now, but they would have guest speakers there talking about these things, like how hard it is to transition, how do you translate into your resume, the mental health aspect. Like, they really did a great job of covering all these things. And then you had this mentorship aspect of the line of work you wanted to get into, and that was incredibly beneficial. So back to your original question, Marie, my transition, very different from most others, because I kind of knew where I was going, what I was doing, and I didn't have to fill out that resume or go on that job interview. But there's a lot of times, like I said, I try to pay it forward for the things I didn't have to do and give back and help folks do the same thing.
So
Now-
how did your family handle you being back after all of that? After you being gone for so long on your different deployments?
They were fine. It was me. I had the problem. As I alluded to earlier, my concept of time, like sand through the hourglass, that was my problem. I'd started to develop anxiety around time, meaning like over a weekend or something, you don't have work, you're spending time with the family and the kids. When Monday morning would come around and everybody would be at school, I would do this mental recap of the weekend, and I would essentially, it would amount to, I would flog myself if I didn't feel like I spent the appropriate amount of time doing the things I should. And, being away from your family so often in deployments, and, there's guys who obviously didn't come back. And there's a saying from World War I in regards to the soldiers that didn't come home. The saying is, they shall not grow old. And I think about that all the time, because I have been given the extreme privilege of being able to grow old where others never will. And I want to make sure that I don't take that time for granted. And my problem came because I took it to an extreme where I would analyze every millisecond of time I was spending with my family and my kids. And if I didn't feel like I met that standard of living up to the they shall not grow old and the privilege I've been given, I would destroy myself mentally. You're a terrible father. You're a terrible husband. You took a 10-minute nap. How dare you? You could have been playing a board game if you didn't do that. And it's only something that I've really gotten a grip on recently. I'd say in the last 6 months. It has taken a very long time to kind of put this thing to bed. And 3 things that help me that I every January I have this ritual where I read 2 of these 3 books, which I'm going to tell you what they are. Those have helped me kind of just like center myself for the new year. One of them is 4,000 Weeks by a guy named Oliver Burkeman. So the average human lifespan is 4,000 weeks long. And so that's why the title of the book is that way. And the book is kind of about humans' evolution and understanding of time. So one of the things that blew my mind that they go into is like, okay, you're thinking like, you know, it's the year 1650. No one's saying, hey, meet me here at noon, because time didn't exist. You rode with the sun. You stopped working when the sun set. That was your concept of time. And now if you think about it, human beings today get paid for their time. So it was about how the human relation and concept of time has morphed from like the 18th century through the 19th century to today. And how literally when you think about doing a job or work, you're saying, I'm willing to give my physical time to this employer because I think what they're going to give back to me is fair in return. And no one's actually bartering money for assets. We're bartering our time. Is this worth my time? And it just completely changed the way I think about time. And the other one is a book called Reconnected by a guy named Whitaker. He was like, he's a priest. He's like 50 years old, but he's like an Instagram blogger, not like a super famous guy, but he lives his life on social media. And one day he looks at the screen time notification, and this notification, he sees the number, and then he says, okay, if I live till 90, how much more time will I spend on social media? And of like the 40 years he thinks he has remaining in his life, it came up to like 32 years he will spend on his phone total. And he had like a meltdown. So he says, okay, I'm done. I need to go disconnect. The actual title of the book is Disconnected, but it has a slash through it for reconnected. So he goes to live, he disconnects from all screens for like 6 weeks. He goes to live in a monastery with monks for a period of time. And then he goes to live with an Amish family in Ohio for a period of time.
Awesome.
Yeah. Before he leaves, he has a brain scan. And then after he comes back, he has a brain scan. 6 weeks off any device. His brain is completely different when he comes back, completely changed. But
wow.
In the book, he talks about one of the things that I took away from that is, especially he was in the monastery with the monks, living at monk speed. So what he means by that is when they had a place to go to, the monks, if it was a 5-minute walk for someone normal, they would leave 20 minutes early, and they would walk slow and observe the birds and the sun and the trees with their hands behind their back. And he would rush off, and they would always say, hey, where are you going? Oh, we got this meeting with us. And like, slow down. This is part of life. This is part of connecting with nature and your peers, is observing everything and taking it all in. And that really impacted me. So those are the 2 books I read every January, 4,000 Weeks and Reconnected. And there's another book called The 5 Types of Wealth by a guy named Salil Bloom. And one of the 5 types of wealth that's in there is time, right? We are so blessed to have time, and we need to make good use of it. Those 3 books, coupled with my therapist and talking through all of this, it's actually funny. I got on with you guys at noon Eastern time today. I just got off the phone with my therapist at 10:30. We were literally talking about time, and she was congratulating. And I was so proud of this, like, because it's Monday, right? The weekend just ended. Normally I'd have my cat of 9 tails in my hand and I'd be destroying myself for not having spent the weekend properly. But, you know, I feel like I've made such progress with knowing I'm not going to be a perfect father, a perfect husband, but I'm going out of my way to spend the time that I can. I think one final thing on this is, maybe this is just me and I need to figure out how to deal with this. When I'm out with my family at a restaurant or something and I look to my right or my left and I see a family of 3 or 4 all on their phones, I want to get up and scream. And I want to do that and it's not fair to them because they don't know what we've experienced. But it's like, bro, like I spent 4 years plus away from my family, and you're sitting there taking them for granted by scrolling through Instagram or Facebook. Like, dude, what are you doing? It's going to be over in a blink of an eye. You're wasting this. And then the impact it's having on the kids. Oh my God, it just kills me. Sorry, I'm done my rant.
No, you bring up some really good points, man, because
Yeah.
it is 100% true. As humans, we're like disconnecting with one another and getting connected on these stinking devices and stuff. I mean, they're even showing studies with kids that have anger issues that are like they live on YouTube and things of that nature, and it shows them getting way more mad, and it shows the people that are taking them away that everybody goes to say, oh, my kid's not getting out, having outrage tantrums and all this stuff like that. So, I tell you, for me, even myself, that's why I disconnected for a second for myself to get away from social media. And I started going on walks and stuff like that. And it's wild because a lot of times I love listening to music, right? Like while I'm walking. But there's those times where I like to just take it off and hear what's around me. And like one time I was walking, I didn't even realize I was like walking next to a creek because I had the dang, and then when I took it off first, and I was like, wait, is that a creek? I was like, oh, I like this sound better. So I turned it all off, and I said, my gosh, that's just so ironic that, that it's almost like something was showing me that how sometimes you got so much going on and you're just listening to this in your ear and you can't even hear what's really going on around you.
Yep.
So I really like that you said all that. Now, if your uncle had said, hell no, man, you go figure it out, do you think that would have put you on a different trajectory in your life? Do you feel that having that support from your uncle helped provide you a little bit, kind of some stability, or, at least a path, a clear path?
Yeah,
or...
I mean, unquestionably. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I would have still been figuring out how to translate surface warfare officer into project manager and what that means, right? So yeah, my career trajectory would have been completely different. Absolutely.
So the reason I ask that, right, is because one of the most important things that I've seen for a lot of veterans getting out is a support system, just having, whether it be someone being able to get you some employment right away, whether you have someone that's kind of more understanding, because otherwise sometimes we get out and we get into a toxic environment and we're not ready for that toxic environment, and we look at things a little bit differently. That's like you said, when you're sitting at a table and you see people on their phones and stuff like that, it resonates different with you because you spent time away from your children, doing something for your country, but what that's like to be kind of torn away from them and not have those. You can't take those 4 years or whatever you were gone and see, you can never get that back with your family, right? And as they're going through milestones and shit, there's a lot of milestones I imagine you had to miss, right? And your wife had to carry the load, so it's just as much of an integration for it was for you getting him back. I imagine for them having dad back in the house too was like, oh shit, because dads and moms, let's just face it, we're a little bit different, right? Well, I know there's some moms out there that are pretty authoritative, but I do know that sometimes when we come back in, and man, and your brain has been mission, your brain has been in a different mode this whole time. You're not worrying about the bills. You're not worrying about, your kids spilling and you having to clean up after them at all, changing diapers and all that stuff. But now you go back and you're just like, oh shit, like, oh God, I got to be a dad again. And you have all these other things on your mind too. So I imagine all of that was a little bit of a huge struggle to kind of settle back into.
You're completely right. It was mom's rules and mom's rules only. And then when dad comes back in, dad has his own set of rules he wants to implement. And that takes a lot of getting used to for everybody. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I want to take a quick minute to announce a project that I am working on. Because, Brian, you were talking about that idea of having the support when you transition and the importance of like having a safe place to land when you get out. As most of you guys know, Brian and I, our big thing is letting people know about resources and encouraging, like conversation I had with someone the other day is there's no excuse for a veteran to be alone anymore. There are so many resources out there, veteran or reservist or National Guard or even active duty, right? There is no excuse for us to feel so lonely anymore except for the fact that we're just in our heads, right? Because there's so many resources out there. And one of the things that I am working on, I am a connector of people, as you guys know. I don't have the energy to start things and to make them into fruition, but I am a collector of people and resources, and I connect people. So something that I have recently just started this last week, okay, we have started I call it the Veteran Database Think Tank, okay? And so I had a meeting with a new program called the Combat Veterans of America and a VSO out in Florida and his sister who works for the National Guard in Louisiana. And we have started a conversation about developing or compiling, different resources that are available into this easy to use database for transitioning folks to be able to access before they get out. Because as we spoke with Kale, so Kale that we had a couple days ago, he works with the Utah Department of Veteran and Military Affairs. And he said when somebody is getting ready to get out of the military, what happens is their department finds out and they send resources to the military for the service member, but it is not translating into the service member. And so they're getting out like just lost and confused, being told, hey, go to the VA, but they're not being given these resources that are available. And so the idea is compiling a resource database, something that's easy to use. And so this is something, if you are interested in partaking in this think tank, please reach out to me, marie@sliderbabe.com. Reach out to me, send me an email. I will send you a recording of that conversation that we had and invite you to come to our next meeting, which will be May 23rd at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. And I will invite you into that video chat. We would love to have you in there. We just want to talk about more of the idea of let's get these resources compiled into one easy to use place. So come talk to me. Let's get this thing going. I know that there are other people doing the same thing. I just don't know where to reach out to them per se. So if you are one of those people that is also developing something like this, come talk to us. Let's collaborate. Let's coordinate and get this thing together.
That's actually brilliant. You guys may or may not know this. I don't know how it is in the Army or the Marine Corps, but with the Navy, there's 42 different websites we have to go to verify this information, verify that information. And some reservist about 15 years ago, a guy named Kelly Beamsley, created a website called kellybeamsley.com that compiled every single Navy website humanly possible into one page. So you didn't have to script different like links, definitions, descriptions, everything. And I've been using this now for 10 years. It is insane.
Can you send that to me, please?
I absolutely can. And
see, and that's a great thing because I think they finesse the shit out of us with the thing is there's a lot of information out there, but when they give it to you, they spew it at you, and then you're like, where do I even find this? And I don't even remember what the hell they said. What was that name of that fucking thing? Like, I mean, that's the thing. So having a database where, because, we are literally like, we need potato head style type stuff, right? We need to be, a lot of us, let's face it, a lot of us probably ain't good doing paperwork, and then they get us to tap out because they just hand us a lot of paperwork. So having a one-stop shop is a great place for this community.
Yeah, so. Especially for veteran stuff. Like, if you still have your GI Bill, you have to go to Mill Connect. you also have to do it at the VA. Then you still got to go to Deers. It's like, oh my God, can we just all be in one place? Why does it have to do this?
It's either
Yeah.
that or you get thrown in the number mill where you get a phone number and someone says, all right, we'll call these guys. They're good. Oh, well, then you call them. They're like, we'll call these guys. And then before you know it, like you get the circle all the way back to the original place. Like, well, they told me to call this person. And then, you know what I mean? It's crazy. So,
And then we do
the
that.
more
and
that
then
we
the
can,
vast majority of people just give up, which is the problem.
Yeah.
that's what I say.
Exactly.
They like to finesse us. And a lot of guys and gals tap out, man, because they're just like, and that's why I think almost, I would say I'm going to venture out and say 80 to 90% of times the first claim that you go to initiate will be denied. But then you got to go back and do it again. And then for some reason, all of a sudden, the second time you go, wow, it went through. It boggles me when they just send you through that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I know that we are running down on time. Okay. So what I would like you to do for the next little bit of time is I would like you to tell us a little bit more about, so you got out of the military, you got into the reserves, and then you got called back into active duty. So I'd like to know just kind of what your transition was back from being in the reserves and into the community and going back into active. Okay, so what has that been like, and where are you at today, and kind of what are your future plans?
The transition off active duty was way easier than my transition off of active duty while in the reserves. And the reason I say that is because at that point I had been doing what I'm doing now for 2 years. And, I know you said this in my bio. I was at U.S. Central Command in Tampa. I think the broader civilian population, and I will include my own family in this because they're just as guilty, believe that if you were not somewhere in a sandbox or in a ship at sea, it was probably easy. It was just some, whatever. So I found myself, and listen, my duty station was Tampa, Florida. I get it. On the outside, it looks like something, but it's not. And it was really frustrating for me when I came back off of that mobilization for people to think I had just had a year vacation, where I was away from my family again for a year because they couldn't come a year straight. I had to shut down my business. I couldn't do it anymore, right? And it wasn't just a year, right? There was training leading up to it. And then on the back end, you get demobilized and that kind of stuff. It was so frustrating for people to think, oh man, no big deal. You were just like working a desk job in a skiff for, a year. I mean, what could have been so bad about that? And it's just like, sorry, I'm going to shut the fuck up, bro. It's like, you have no idea. You literally have no idea how this impacts me, my family, my mental state, all of this stuff. So to answer your question, Marie, it was way harder. I also think because I was older and more mature to think to myself, hey, we're now in our 30s. We should be on the same page. Like, you should know that this is difficult. This isn't, I don't know. It was so frustrating. It took me a while to get over that one.
It's hard because, I looked up the statistics, and currently serving in the United States Armed Forces right now, it's less than 1% of the population.
Yep.
And there's about 6 or 7% currently that are living that are considered veterans. So a large portion of the population does not have any understanding of what the commitment entails when you go to raise your hand and take an oath to this country. And it's a never expiring oath as well, because we still carry it on no matter what after, our service. It's something that when we do it, it is embedded into us, that, time and service, that service and grade, whatever, it is embedded into us. And that's the most frustrating part, because I literally got into a squabble with some of my hometown friends, right? Because of them basically undermining what I did, and me not even telling them much of anything, right? But then them throwing little digs at me about me going to war or something, and then literally led to a fight.
Yeah.
Because I was like, hey, motherfucker, you have no clue what the fuck I've been through, bro. You don't even know what we experienced and the loss and the things like that, bro. Just because you weren't, you don't have no clue. It's just, it was very frustrating. And I get that, bro. Like, and that is one of the hardest things to integrate back in. And I think that's why we find ourselves very solitary, right? We start to, we don't even want to hang out with our own friends and family anymore because of the way that they're talking about it or something.
I agree. And it kind of builds like a resentment. And once you have that resentment, you're like, okay, I don't need to deal with this. So I'll just go into my own shell here and I'll just deal with it myself.
100%, dude.
Yeah. So that reminds me of there's also a struggle within the military as well. And we've talked about this a lot. And I just want to bring awareness to it too. You've got people who are being shamed for not being combat veterans, and that's the thing that pisses me off so bad. Like when people are like, oh, your service doesn't count. And I'm like, screw you. Like my husband was reserves, and in his training, he dealt with suicides, seeing somebody get run over by a tank. He dealt with him almost getting run over by a tank. It's like, you have no idea, like what people are dealing with in their training, just that by itself. Like, stop shaming people for not being deployed. Stop that shit.
I'm saying.
Like
we
are all brothers and sisters. Like,
it's very dangerous at time. There's live firing drills going on. There's people carrying super heavy weaponry around, getting whacked in the fucking face. I mean, there's so many things that go down, and that's what I'm saying. It is hard to, and that's why, it's good to talk about these kind of things, right? Because hopefully there's family members of people out there watching this now, and when one of their kids are serving or their nephews or someone, and they're like, man, maybe we need to have a little grace on these guys when they're coming out and stuff like that, and stop throwing rocks at them right off rip, or, giving them hell. And a lot of times too, right? This is the other thing, is they think that we're like kind of robots, and that because I'm a Marine, oh, well, he's a Marine, he should, he doesn't have feelings, and, he shouldn't care. It's like, hold up, man. At the end of the day, I'm a human too.
I'm super happy you said that, Marie, because I've dealt with exactly what you just said, but I think I've brought it upon myself. So I have this core group of friends from college. My best friend is a Marine. He's a current lieutenant colonel, and he deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan multiple times. And after I got off active duty, me personally, no one ever said this to me, it was in my own head. Even though I had been to the Persian Gulf twice and I had shot missiles into Syria and I had done stuff with Iranians, I felt this imposter syndrome. Like I hadn't done enough in the war on terror because my boots never touched sand. And that really impacted me for a long time. Kind of like, so I'm a massive student of history. So if you think about like World War II, the guys who were on the back and not on the front lines, but were way back doing logistics, right? They had this feeling like what was their contributions, right? I moved letters to the front line. I moved food to the front line, but I wasn't out there pulling a trigger, and it affected them when they came back. And some of those guys were shamed. I don't think I have never experienced an outward shaming of being non-combat. I don't, unless you guys tell me something different, I don't know that has been prevalent since maybe Vietnam. But I personally,
it happens a lot. It happens.
It's very bad on social media.
Yeah, I have personally never experienced it.
Yeah.
But because so many of my friends are Marines and they went multiple times, it started to eat away at me. Like, what did I do? But as I've gotten older, I've been able, and through therapy and talking about, been able to overcome that. But it was something that really weighed on me for the first like 2 or 3 years I got off active duty.
No, I'm glad you point that out, because I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there going through that same mental thoughts just like you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we share that because just as much as it's important for the people who deployed to share that, like for me, I don't look at anybody different. That's when I go into meeting someone, I'm like, oh, did you deploy? Or, you know, like that's not even my
no one
question.
ever asked that question amongst service members.
Yeah, I really don't. I mean, that's not my first right off rip. Like, hey, where did you go? You know?
So my husband had a discussion with the VSO because this is a huge thing is that whole imposter syndrome, you know, with a lot of people. Because even though maybe you haven't experienced, you know, it being done to you, I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. But the biggest thing is just that imposter syndrome, even if it's not happening. And so this VSO, you know, told my husband, you know, he made that comment like, okay, so your service, if you know, or anybody, right, if you feel like your service didn't matter, okay, so you'd have to get deployed. Okay, so let's go through this mentality. Okay, you get deployed. Okay, you still don't feel like that's enough. Okay, you get shot. Okay, but where would you have to get shot in order to feel like that matters? Okay, all right. Oh, but this person lost a limb. Okay, so now I have to lose a limb. Okay, if I lose this limb, well, how many limbs do I have to lose? You know, how far do I have to go to actually feel like my service mattered? And so that's the idea is like you can't base it on that external stuff. You can't base it on somebody else's thing because the person who loses 2 limbs and still has his hands, right? If he loses his legs and he still has his hands, he's going to feel like an imposter with somebody that's lost his arms. You know, and so there's always this, you know, it could be worse. It could be worse. So it's like, instead of comparing yourself to other people, can you just recognize that your trauma was yours to bear? And that is enough. And that is okay. We don't have to hold on to imposter syndrome.
I think it's such a great point. I think the VA process lends to some imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
right? Because all of my stuff is internal, right? You can't see it. But then I go to the VA and I see a guy who has 2 legs missing, and I'm like, wait a minute. There's a real possibility his disability rating and mine are the exact same. But look what he went through versus look what I went through.
Yeah.
I think that really fucked with my head a lot when I was going through that. Just because of the outward physical trauma versus my stuff I have. That was hard to deal with too. And I think that kind of had the imposter syndrome boil up into my conscious a lot.
That's one of the biggest things that I hate going to the VA hospital. I mean, honestly, it's just, you know, you see people that are like, you're just like, gosh, damn it, bro. Like these people are so far worse off than me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like letting him go in front of me in the line.
But you
know
got to
what I
get
mean?
that mentality out of
No,
there.
I know it
Yeah.
it is one of those things. And I get it. You know, I think, you know, whenever I see anybody in a wheelchair or anything, man, my heart just is like, you know, like, gosh, damn it. But you know, Bryan, I appreciate you, bro. And I do appreciate your service to our country. I appreciate you having the ability to come and talk about it too, man. I mean, that's what we're all about, is trying to get everybody out there to heal out loud, to share their story, to lose the shame of it, and that someone out there could very well learn from you and it could save their life. So I thank you, Bryan. And you know,
I appreciate you guys
I know
so much. Thank you so much for having me. This has been an awesome conversation. I would love to do it again if in the future you guys want to have me back. But this has been.
We'll have you back about 10 times if you want to. So just, you know,
absolutely, man. I think that we
let's
could
do
even
it.
just sit on a topic and have a conversation about those kind of things. You know, I mean, a lot of people can learn from just simple conversations, and that's why, like I said, talking is amazing and what it can do. And you know, anybody out there that wants to come on here and share your thoughts, share your story, come on out, come heal out loud. We don't bite, and you know, it's a safe place where we want others to learn from us and learn from our guests. And Bryan, you know, before we head out, man, is there anything else that you maybe didn't get to really talk about that you just want to briefly cover? I know you got to get going, so we'll just
that was it. This has been awesome. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Well, this has
Absolutely.
been
Thank
wonderful
you.
having you, and I've appreciated your unique perspective because we've had active duty, we've had veterans, but the idea of having you were active duty and then you went into reserves and then you got activated again and then like all of this, it's been really wonderful to have these different perspectives. The last thing that I will ask, where are you are you still doing financial planning? And if
Yeah.
you are, where are you and how can people contact you if they are interested in your services?
I'm just outside of Philadelphia, but because I have so many veterans in my practice, I'm registered in 24 states across the country, from Florida to California,
Damn.
Maine to Texas.
I might need to get in touch with Brian.
Email address is brian.pultro@lpl.com, and the phone number is 215-489-3876. One of my things is I love helping veterans because, they get out with either the new blended retirement system plan, which is the 401k, or a pension. They have to make choices on VGLI, or they have to make choices on the survivor benefit plan, SPP. Those are all things that the VA and no one is going to give you advice on what to do. And it's one of the things that are near and dear to my heart, is to help veterans and transitioning service members make those right decisions. So when they're 75, they don't regret the decision they made when they were 45.
Okay.
Love that.
If
Thank you so much.
If you get a chance, send me that information and we will throw it in with your video for
Awesome.
when we get it out. And your episode will air in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian. We appreciate you, brother.
Yeah. Thank you both so much. Have a wonderful day. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You
You as
too.
well. All right, Marie. Well, sheesh, man, let me tell you, every time we bring on a new guest, I feel like I learned just new stuff, right? Or some of the things that he was saying, the way he said it, it just kind of like, it really resonates, and you're just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I get that. And I understand that, there's quite a few things that he really touched on. This is the important thing for veterans out there, right? Is you can learn a lot from each other. You can learn a lot from just yourself, and coming out and talking about things. We gotta change the norm, and just like Brian said, we were taught to compress things and keep it inside. Because that was when you're a warrior and when you're in, there's a time where you probably do got to you don't have a lot of time to sit there and process through things. You do got to work through it and you got to keep pressing forward. But when you get out, that's the time where you do got to start to set back and things like that. But it is hard, right? Because we're all trained, even, and I think a lot of us don't give ourselves a lot of credit because there's a lot of people that have done it 20 years, but 4 years is a lot of time to give up. And when you live a certain way for those 4 years in a set pattern, man, it is embedded in your head. I mean, I think they said that a lot of times that you get into a new habit within like 6 days of continuously doing something or something. I forgot what the days were, but I mean, do it for 4 years plus to remove yourself from that is I don't think I'll ever completely get myself removed, the way I think as in terms of the Marine Corps teaching me.
Yeah.
But,
this was a lot of fun, like talking to him and yeah, that makes sense what you're saying about when we are in this change and trying to the thought process that's going into my head is, we make these changes and then trying to come back into the civilian world. It really is such a hard transition. It is hard to apply, right? Your military training into the civilian way. The expectations are a lot different from the military than from when you go into back into the civilian world, right? And it's two different species, completely. You're used to different environments, different cultures, different ways of doing things, processes, all that stuff. And so integration is not an easy part for veterans. And that's something, like I said, we got to talk a lot more about that part and trying to elaborate. And one of the biggest things is, and if you're a family member out there listening and you have someone that's serving,
try to be that support person for that, for them. They need somewhere to fall, right? And they're going to fall no matter what. My daughter's dating a Marine, and he just got out, right? And he's at that phase like where EAS is up, it's time's up now. He's not getting a paycheck from the military no more, and he's having to like go get himself a job that pays him and stuff. And luckily, there's great programs out there, and I'll have to get the program that he's in right now, but it's a 8-week course that he's got to go there for 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, and for 8 weeks. They teach him different lines of stuff like electrician, carpentry, you name it. They're all the different stuff. So after the 8 weeks, he says, you know what? I really liked that electrician training. I want to be an electrician. So then I guess they go ahead and work in getting them placed into the places where they can go make some money. So there's a lot of different transition programs. I know that when I talk about getting out, I'm talking about 20 years ago. I know that they definitely have changed and stuff like that. So I hope we can bring on, I'm trying to get them on, but those new guys, when they get out, they like, the fucking veterans over here, but I
don't want to talk about my stuff. I don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Yeah.
And I said, you know what, bro, you're going to learn that card that you have is going to be valuable for networking or anything like that. So don't be afraid to use it when you got to. But all right,
so
we'll
I
go
just
ahead.
want to,
oh, yep.
Sorry, I just want to say one last thing. So I had, as we're talking about transition, I again want to highlight the importance of getting connected before you get out. Okay, because I had a woman who I met recently who is active duty and is getting medically discharged. And she called me up the other day and she's like, Marie, I am so worried. I am so worried about getting out because I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how to handle losing this life that I've had, the life that I thought I was going to have, because she's getting out not by her choice, and stuff like that. And she was like really struggling. And we just had this conversation. I was like, listen, I wish I had somebody like me that I am going to be for you right now. I was like, here is the thing. You have to get connected before you get out. The veteran community is so entirely vast. There are so many programs out there. And somebody explained it to me the other day, and I'm not sure if I've said it on the podcast or not. When we go from one unit to another, when we PCS, okay, we don't get to the next unit and we're like, well, this is how the last unit did it. Or I have to check in with this other unit. This is how we did. This is what we did. No, you integrate into the unit that you're in now. You have to become a part of that unit that you are in now. And that's the same thing when we ETS. We can't hold on to the unit of the active duty or the reserves or whatever unit we were a part of. We have to remember that we are transitioning to a new unit. And that new unit is the veteran community in your local state, wherever you're at. So instead of holding on to the pain that I'm not in this unit anymore, because in the military, you don't have time to do that. It's the same thing when you get out. Recognize that your new unit is a veteran unit. Get integrated into your veteran unit. Make sure that you are getting help. And I'm doing the
You're doing the knife hand. You're doing the knife hand. This is the
but
Marine
it's
Corps
for
knife
real.
hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get the help, like transition into the new unit, the VA, the veterans, the us civilians that are supporting the veterans, all of this, we are your new unit. Stop holding on to the pain of the loss of what you had and start figuring out where you can fit in now.
And if you have found a nonprofit, an organization that has helped you with your mental health, with what you're going through, kind of got you through your dark place, someone that's holding a flashlight, let's get that on this list and everything that Marie's trying to put together. So let's email Marie at sliderbabe.com if you had anything that successfully helped you through your transition. Whether it be retreat, whether it be equine therapy, events going on, that there's great networking opportunities, whatever it may be. Let's get it out to Marie so we can make this list as big and as wide as we can, and maybe break it into states and all that stuff. So that way, when our brothers and sisters get out, they have a little something to fall back on. We're going to have some warriors coming home, here soon, that are going to be going through the same struggles that a lot of us had to go through. So us big brothers and sisters, we're going to have to step in and really get our boots on and stuff like that. So it's important that we get as many stories out as we can right now, get this material ready. So when we get these young warriors home, they have a little bit of some material to help them through their time. But once again, guys, we appreciate you guys so much. If you guys can, please go like, share, follow the show. It is completely free, $99, and it doesn't cost a thing. And we can use all the help we can so we can get all these amazing stories out to all of the people. Once again, if you're a family member, relative, this show would be very great for you to get some education and learn a little bit the inside of our domes and what kind of goes through our process of thinking at times. But Marie, do you have anything else before we head out?
Nope, this has been wonderful. Thank you, Bryan, for being here, and thank you, Bryan, for being the co-host. And being awesome. So,
Bryan with an I, Bryan with a Y. We're gonna have a good one, and you know how we say in the show: don't let the day kick your ass. Make sure you're out there kicking it. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.